If you've been following a low FODMAP diet for months or even years because it's the only thing that keeps your symptoms under control, this video might save your gut health. Because what most people don't realize is that staying on the elimination phase long term isn't just unsustainable, it's actually kind of dangerous for your gut health long term. Most doctors won't tell you this, most websites don't explain it, but there's a reason the low FODMAP diet has these specific phases, and skipping the reintroduction phase can leave you worse off than when you started. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why staying restrictive forever really backfires and what it's doing to your gut bacteria, and how to safely expand your diet without bringing back the symptoms that scared you in the first place. My name is Joe Leach, a qualified dietitian and founder of Diet vs. Disease, the world's largest online gut health clinic. We help people navigate the tricky low FODMAP process so they can eat freely again without fear. The elimination trap. Here's what happens to most people. They start the low FODMAP diet, and for the first time in years, they feel normal. No bloating, no cramping, no unpredictable toilet trips. And they think, great, my gut is healed, case closed. And so they stay in this elimination mode indefinitely. But here's the problem. Symptom-free doesn't mean healed, okay? It just means you've removed the triggers. So imagine your smoke alarm is blaring and you can't stand the noise, right? So you rip it down from the ceiling and you remove the batteries, problem solved, right? Well, kind of, because chances are there's still something burning or smoking in your house that set off the alarm in the first place. And that's the real problem you need to fix. So the low FODMAP diet is like removing the batteries from that smoke alarm. It stops the noise, but it doesn't address what's actually causing the fire. Victoria, one of the talented dietitians on our team, she sees this all the time with our clients. And on a recent training call, she explains why people stay in the elimination phase too long. So I'll play that snippet and then we'll come back here.
Yeah, I think it happens actually quite frequently. I think it's natural too, right? Like when you're not feeling good for so long and then all of a sudden you're experiencing symptom relief and you're feeling so much better. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well now I'm scared to bring back foods, or I don't want my symptoms to come back. I don't know exactly what was causing my symptoms. So it's really common in that regard to want to stay symptom free, but also I feel like there's not a lot of information out there, or doctors go into the part of like reintroducing foods is going to be important in the whole process.
So you can hear it in Victoria's voice. This is completely understandable. When you've been suffering for years and you finally find relief, of course, you don't want to rock the boat. But here's what's happening behind the scenes while you're feeling, sort of safe on your restricted diet. People are they're eating very low fiber diets, and your gut microbiome, that's the community of beneficial bacteria that keeps your digestive system strong, it's slowly sort of starving because the foods you're avoiding, well, many of them are the exact foods those beneficial bacteria need to survive. Now, if you're starting to realize that you've been stuck in this sort of safe but starving zone, then it's time to change direction. We've helped thousands of people move safely from restriction to gut resilience with our For Sure pathway. And if you want to learn how that works and whether it's the right next step for you, just comment Sure Pathway below or tap the first link in the description for more details. It explains everything you need, the exact process we use to rebuild tolerance without bringing symptoms back. And if you're earlier in your gut health journey and you're just trying to get started, get our free low FODMAP food list using link number 2 in the description. So what's the time frame that matters here? When should we start the reintroduction phase? And how long is too long without starting? This is one of the most important questions we get, and Victoria has a clear answer based on the research.
I would say if your symptom improvement is like 75% or more, or for the majority of your time, you're going to be symptom-free, that's a good point to start reintroducing foods. And you're going to want to do it slowly, right? Because if you add everything back in at once, how are you supposed to know what your foods that are triggering you, right? So doing it in a very strategic way is really helpful. A lot of times it's also helpful to have a dietitian or a healthcare professional walk you through the reintroductions, because there's so many other things that could impact your gut and could impact certain reactions. So it's helpful to have a second eye of being like, okay, what is contributing to my symptom that kind of appeared when I've been symptom-free for the most part. So generally speaking, you want to be in the elimination phase for 4 to 6 weeks. There are some instances where it can be a little bit longer, but again, you would really want to be being monitored by a healthcare professional because, like Joe mentioned in the beginning, there's other things that it could start to affect, like your gut microbiome or nutrient deficiencies or things like that. So long term, it's going to be very individualized, right? So for some people, 4 weeks, that's efficient, where other people may need 6 or maybe even sometimes 8, but really any longer than that, you shouldn't really, unless it's like extreme circumstance.
4 to 6 weeks in the elimination phase. That's it. Not 4 to 6 months, not 4 to 6 years. And Victoria's being generous here. Most research suggests even shorter timeframes for optimal results. But here's what she said that I really want you to hear, okay? There's other things that this could start to affect, like your gut microbiome or nutrient deficiencies. The microbiome connection. In case you don't know or need a reminder, the gut microbiome is the community of trillions of microbes living inside your large intestine, okay? They help with digestion, immune function, vitamin production, mood, and brain health. But when you stay on an overly restrictive diet, like low FODMAP, for too long, you starve the very bacteria that keep your gut healthy. That imbalance is called dysbiosis. And dysbiosis isn't just about bloating or constipation or diarrhea. It's linked to inflammation, food sensitivities, and chronic diseases like arthritis, type 2 diabetes, even cognitive decline. Victoria has an analogy to explain what's happening to your gut bacteria during long-term restriction.
Sometimes hearing like the microbes and the large intestines and things like that, it can be a little bit overwhelming for some people to understand. So the analogy I like to use with my clients is like, think of it as like an ecosystem. So think of like a forest. Every little aspect is going to play a role no matter how small it is. And if something goes out of whack for whatever reason, like Joe said, it could be age, it could be stress, it could be medications, whatever it may be, the ecosystem's going to shift and change. So now that habitat for a certain particular organism might not be able to live as efficiently as it did before. Sometimes it's helpful to explain it that way for people too, just to kind of give it like an analogy.
I really enjoy the forest analogy because when you restrict fiber-rich foods long-term, you're essentially removing entire food sources from your ecosystem. You are starving the beneficial bacteria that break down those complex fibers. So imagine if someone removed all the nuts and berries from a forest, right? The squirrels would leave or die off. And then the animals that depend on the squirrels would struggle. So the whole ecosystem becomes less diverse, less resilient, and it starts to break. And that's exactly what happens in your gut. And here's the kicker. When you finally try to reintroduce those foods, you no longer have the right bacteria to process them properly. So you get more symptoms, not because the foods are inherently bad for you, but because your gut ecosystem can no longer handle them. So it's very much a balancing act of what you take away and then what you reintroduce back and when. If you've been stuck in that balancing act, afraid to reintroduce foods because you finally feel better, but starting to wonder if your gut is actually getting weaker, not stronger, not alone. We see this all the time. That's exactly why we created the For Sure pathway. So if you want to learn how it works, just comment short pathway below or tap the first link in the description. Or if you're just beginning your gut health journey and you need help with what to eat right now, grab our free low FODMAP food list using link number 2 in the description. Now, this isn't just about gut bacteria or deficiencies, okay? Staying overly restrictive can impact your entire life. Victoria explains another crucial aspect that most people don't consider until it's too late.
Yes, your symptoms affect your life daily in so many different ways. So many different aspects. Those symptoms are going to affect your life. But also when you're so restrictive and you can't branch out of that after a while, that's going to affect you too. Like you mentioned, it affects so many different aspects. It's not just the food that you're eating. There's also a social impact, an emotional impact. There's other ways that it impacts your life, which is why it also brings an importance to reintroduce foods. It does happen pretty frequently because one, it can bring up a fear around food. So you're scared of foods then. So your relationship isn't necessarily okay, like all foods are good in certain moderation or certain portion sizes. It's, well, I can't eat this food because I don't know what's going to happen. So there brings a lot of fear behind that as well. But then you're also thinking about it all the time. You're also worried to branch out at all because of the potential consequences. And that could also be really isolating. So when you're restricted for so long, it could also kind of skew how you're thinking of things, which could in the future develop into disordered eating patterns, or worst case scenario into disordered eating.
This is reality for so many people who come and speak with us. You start avoiding restaurants because there's nothing safe to eat. You stop traveling because you can't control the food. You decline dinner invitations, family gatherings, social events, and slowly your world gets smaller and smaller. Now, Victoria mentioned something crucial there that I want to highlight. You end up thinking about food and what you can't eat all the time. That's so negative. That constant food fear, that mental energy spent calculating and restricting, that's not living freely. That's food prison. And the irony is, the longer you stay restricted, the harder it becomes to break free. Because now you're not just dealing with physical symptoms, right? You're dealing with food anxiety, social isolation, and the psychological impact of long-term restriction. So what's the solution? The answer isn't to just add everything back and hope for the best. It requires a strategic, step-by-step approach to rebuilding your gut's tolerance safely. Now, our For Sure pathway is designed specifically for this challenge. It's a 4-step process, and SURE is an acronym. So it's symptom-free. Yes, we want to get you stable first. Then understand. So we want to identify your root causes through proper testing. Then reintroduction and rebuild. So we guide you through expanding your diet systematically. And then last is eat with freedom. You rebuild a resilient gut that can handle variety again. Because the goal is never to keep you restricted forever. The goal is food freedom. The goal is being able to travel, eat out, enjoy family meals without fear. That's what this is all about. That is what truly matters. If you've been stuck in elimination mode and you're ready to safely rebuild your food variety, tap the first link in the description or comment SURE pathway to learn more about our program. And if you're just starting out and want our proven low FODMAP food list, that's link number 2 in the description. Now, if you want to understand more about gut health testing and whether SIBO could be behind your symptoms, watch this next video where we break down everything you need to know. And if you found this useful, be sure to like the video. That really helps the channel out, and subscribe if you don't want to miss our new videos.